guys, welcome to my channel. This is actually my first video. I wanted to make a channel about my book journey because I'm super crazy about books. I literally read every single day. I read like 2 or 3 books a day. I know it's really a problem, but I'm here to share my experiences and like to recommend books because I do so much research, just like looking on Kindle, trying to find videos on TikTok about different books and different scenarios that I make up in my head about books, and I can never find anything related to like what I think about. So I decided I'm gonna make a YouTube channel and just share some of my experiences and books that I've read. So today's video is Mafia romance books. I love Mafia. I love Mafia romance books so much. I obviously know it's not like that in the real world, but when it comes to reading and like the fantasy world, I love reading about it. So the first book I want to talk about is Dante by Sadie Kincaid. I think that's how you say her name, Sadie Kincaid. I am new to this author. I have never read a book of hers before, but this book, it was chef's kiss. It was so freaking good. The drama, the suspense, the romance, the spiciness, like everything was just perfect. So it's about Dante Moretti, and he is going to talks about the journey about him. I read this book a couple weeks ago, so I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but it's about a girl named Katerina, and she's just living her life normally, like her normal day, when all of a sudden she's like, someone's freaking banging down her door, from what I remember, and they're like asking questions about where her brother is and the money he owes them. And she's like, what in the world are you talking about? She was like, my brother hasn't been home in days, from what I remember, if I'm remembering this correctly. And it's like 3 or 2 dudes. I know Dante is here, the main character, the main hero, and he sees her and he's just infatuated with her right away. And he's like, I want to know what your brother is. Like, I don't want to spoil this too much for you, but basically he ends up like agreeing for her to pay off her brother's debt with him, but not in like a sexual manner. Like, she's gonna do like actual work, like physical labor, like be a maid and stuff. And she's like, okay, like she agrees to that. So he ends up taking her to his like estate or mansion or whatever, and she starts working for him. And at first she's like doing nothing. She's like, what the fuck is going on? Okay, I think I'm gonna spoil it too much, but he just becomes like a softie for her. Like, straight up, he was like a ruthless guy in the beginning, and then he just becomes like a big teddy bear for her, which is actually perfection. And the scenes, like, there's just certain scenes in this book that are just so unlike other mafia romance books that I've read, because they can be kind of what is that word, repetitive. They can be very repetitive, just like arranged marriages and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I love arranged marriages, but it gets boring. So this just like changes it up. I love it so much. I gave it a 5 out of 5. Spiciness, I would give it like a 4.5 out of 5. The next book I want to talk about is Destroy Me by Michelle Hurd. Michelle Hurd, oh my gosh, I never knew that she was such a talented writer. Every single book that I read of hers is perfection, and it's so different from anything I have ever read before. Trust me, I've been reading for 2 years straight. I've read so many books. She just knows how to like throw some plot twist in there and get you in your feelings. I'm always crying in her books, but not in like a bad way. Like, I cry because I'm feeling connected to the characters, or there's just certain scenes in books where you feel really like you're in their shoes, you know, and it makes you really, really feel that. So she does a really good job of that, of making you feel like you're actually the person, the heroine or the hero in the book. So in Destroy Me by Michelle Hurd, it's actually an interconnected standalone with the Saints series by Michelle Hurd, which is also an amazing series. I have not read a book from Michelle Hurd. I've read all of her books. every single one of them. And there's probably like 2 I can say out of all of her books that I did not like. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. From Destroy Me by Michelle Hurd. It's about Misha and Aurora, and this is like a forbidden romance trope mixed in like a gothic vibe, like boarding school, mafia school type of situation. They both attend I do not remember what the name is, but it's like an academy for mafia kids so that they can train them to be like leaders and stuff. So Misha is an assassin for one of like the most important mafia leaders, and Aurora is a mafia princess, but they actually do not meet at the school that they go to, or the academy they're in. This is like a college thing. This is like after high school and everything. They meet in a club, like I think a couple months before. I don't know about years. I think a couple months before. And I don't remember if they hook up. I think that they like kiss. I think they kiss. I'm not sure if I really remember. I don't want to spoil it either. But they do not end off on good terms, but they have like this memory of each other. And when they see each other in school again, or like for the first, like after they met, they see each other in this like academy, and he hates her. He does not want to be next to her or like even be seen near her. So after they meet, they just like totally dislike each other. Well, he dislikes her, and she's kind of like, she had like a fond memory of him, and she wants to like be with him, but she's like a timid, shy person, and you just feel bad for her like throughout the series because she just goes through a lot of stuff, but he's there for her, and that is the best part. He becomes a softie for her too. Hero, ruthless turned teddy bear turned golden retriever, perfection. And he is very badass in the book. Very, very badass. I rate this a 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 spice too, because this was spicy. That brings me on to my next book, which is Alexis by Bella J. Bella J? Yeah, Bella J. This book, this trilogy, oh my gosh. So good. I can actually say that I hate trilogies. If you give me a book and it's a trilogy, it would take me forever to get through it, because I'm just like, why does a book need freaking 3 books? I just get so impatient and I won't finish it. But I did finish the Alexis trilogy because it was a page turner. I finished the first book like around 5 a.m. in the morning, and I moved on. I fell asleep, woke up, went on to the next book. I started this in a weekend. I started it Friday. That night, I started it Saturday morning. I did the second book. Saturday night, third book, I finished it in 2 days. So good. So good. So this is about Alexis and Leandra. I think that's how you say her name. Leandra. I'm not sure. I'm gonna call her probably Leah. I'll call her Leah. So it's about Alexis and Leah, and Alexis needs a wife, I believe, to inherit his wealth or to be like the leader, the next leader. I read this book when it came out like a couple months ago, so I'm not completely sure about why he needed to marry her. I think it was for his status. He sees her and he's infatuated with her as well, and he corners her into a marriage. But he's not like a crazy person either in that way. Like, he doesn't want to like be with her sexually or anything in the beginning. He's like, he just wants her because she's beautiful and he can get what he wants from the marriage, right? She refuses at first, and then I think he ends up convincing her, from what I can remember, and they end up married. This is not your normal marriage inconvenience trope. It is so good. There's just like so much depth that goes into these books because it's 3 books. I literally cried in the 3rd book. I felt so bad for her. There was such a beautiful scene where he just grovels. It's amazing. It's amazing. Really, you need to read it. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, as I said. The next book that we're going to talk about is Forgive Me My Sins by Natasha Knight. I love Natasha Knight as well. She's amazing. I read all of her books on Audible because the narrators for Audible on Natasha Knight are just amazing. But they don't have this book on Audible yet. I don't think. I read this on Kindle. So Forgive Me My Sins by Natasha Knight stars Santos and Madalena. I think Madalena. And this is your marriage of convenience trope as well, but it is so much better than just your typical marriage of convenience trope, as I said before. This is not marriage of convenience, I mean arranged marriage. Marriage of convenience and arranged marriages are different. I meant to say arranged marriage. So Madalena she meets Santos, I believe, when she's like 16 or 17, and he wants to marry her because her dad is actually his enemy and he has like a feud with him. So she meets him when she's 16, and the way that they like conceal their engagement is like he has to like her in her hand and he has to himself too, and then they shake like a little moment there, and she's freaked out by this, and he's like, okay, and this, I have to preface that all these books are dark, okay? If you don't like dark books, this is not the story for you. So after that moment, they are just living their separate lives. He does not want to touch her until she's like of age. Obviously, he's not a weirdo. And there are just a lot of instances where she's growing up, you know, she goes to prom, she goes to high school, and he sees her with like other guys, and he's like, what are you doing, you know? And there's just a whole bunch of jealousy scenes. Love them, literally perfection. I don't want to ruin this anymore, but she does not care until she's like, I'm not yours, you know? And I just think that's perfection. So I definitely recommend this. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Spice, 5.5 out of 5. Really recommend it. Natasha Knight, she knows how to write Mafia. She's literally the queen of Mafia. Next, we have Narrow by S.J. Tilley. This book was so fun. It was so fun and so lighthearted, but also it had like dark themes as well, and it was obviously Mafia related, which stars Peyton and Narrow being the hero and Peyton being the heroine. Peyton is just living her life. She's literally in her apartment, and she's just watching TV with her popcorn, and all of a sudden she sees like her window being smashed open, or like her window, like the doors, curtain things, whatever, being like smashed open, and she's like, what in the world? And this guy comes in with a tux, like fine, coming in, and he's just like looking at her, and she's like, what the fuck? And she almost like throws her popcorn. And he tells her like, if you want to live, like, don't say anything. And she's like, what in the world is going on? And he just literally sits down with her, and they finish the popcorn, and they finish the movie, and she's like, what in the world is going on? And she literally ends up falling asleep there with him because he tells her he's not gonna hurt her. So she falls asleep, and he goes and he's like snoops in her apartment. He figures out her name and everything, and they have like a moment before that too, before she falls asleep, where she feels safe with him. And from then on, he figures out her name, and he leaves the apartment, and he leaves her there, and she wakes up in the morning, and she was like, oh my god, he was like so attractive. She was like, but how can I be attracted to someone who like literally broke into my house, you know? She's like second guessing herself. She's like, that's so weird. So he actually ends up planting cameras in her house, and he's like sneaking on her to see what she's doing because he was infatuated with her as well, like after that meeting. And he sees like she's alone and she's depressed and all this and that and that. I don't want to spoil it too much, but he ends up coming back into her life, and she does not know who he is, like what he does for a living, that he's an assassin or like a mafia guy, whatever. So good. 5 out of 5. 4 out of 5 spice. And it was also funny too, like it was actually so hilarious. And there was also like an angry scene there, you know what I'm talking about, like those kind of angry scenes. The next book I want to talk about is what made me go into mafia romances. Twisted Loyalties by Rena Kent. I actually started this series backwards. Not this series, but it's like an interconnected series with Born in Blood Chronicles. So Twisted Loyalties is a part of the Kimura Chronicles, and it's interconnected with the series Born in Blood Chronicles. Yes, yeah, right. So I started off with Kimura Chronicles, which is like about the Las Vegas Kimura, which stars Fabiano and Nino and Remy. I don't remember his name. No, I really read this like 2 years ago. Twisted Loyalties is all of the vibes that you get from like Cinderella, I guess you would say, where she's like a poor, struggling heroine, and he's like a rich, wealthy, mysterious guy. I guess it's kind of not like Cinderella in the sense of like the fantasy thing. It is, but not obviously like the story, because it's literally rated R. But Twisted Loyalties is about Leona, and she's just living her life, as I said before, and all these other freaking stories about the heroines just living their life, but she really is just living her life until things get really bad at home with her mom. So she goes back to Las Vegas, where her dad lives, and her dad is actually crazy when it comes to like being a father. He's not a good father figure whatsoever. He has a drug problem, a gambling problem, any freaking problem, you name it, he has it. And she goes home and she enters her house, and it literally like smells like piss. Like he's like, if you're staying here, I need rent money. You need to get yourself a bed, blankets. And she's like, okay, well, thanks for the freaking welcome. But she ends up going to Target, and she like gets her stuff to like live there for the meanwhile while she gets a job. So the next morning after she comes back home, while she's walking and like looking for a job, she ends up it ends up raining, and she's like only wearing flip-flops and like a dress, I believe, or like shorts. I don't remember. She just was not in like rain attire. That's when Fabiano is driving past her. He's like in a suit, in a nice car. I believe it was like a Maserati. I'm not sure what it was exactly. And he offers her a ride because he sees that she's like literally wearing summer clothing. Drives her to her house, and he sees where she lives, and he's like, oh, this is like a rough part of the neighborhood. But he knows her dad. Like he's like a huge gambling guy that like used to owe them a lot of money. After he drops her off there, he's like infatuated with her. You get like his backstory in the Born in Blood Chronicles. If you read that series, you see how he went through a lot when he was little, and how he got to be where he's at with the Vegas Kimura, and he's very, very, very loyal to them. But when he sees her at the bar, he's like, you're not working here, or he's just like very protective over her. He like claims her because he doesn't want no one else to have her. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm gonna stop talking here, but such a good book, because he's like badass mafia guy falling in love with this girl who doesn't have no money, who's in drug debt. I don't even want to explain that, but so good. That brings me to my last mafia book, which is Mafia Madman by Mila Finelli, I believe. She's the same author from the 2 previous books of this trilogy. Well, it's not a trilogy, of this series, Mafia Mistress, I believe, yeah. So this is about Gia and Enzo. Enzo is the enemy of her father, and he ends up kidnapping Gia, and he takes her to like this boat, and he just leaves her. He stays in that boat with her there in the boat, and they end up falling in love, and like, I guess like sorting their differences. I don't know. It's so good. Very, very, very spicy. Very, very spicy. Okay. And very much enemies to lovers. Okay. So good. There's just nothing else I need to say about this book. It's literally perfection. Just think about them stranded in the middle of the ocean, enemies to lovers. She hates him. She's like, why the fuck would you kidnap me? He is like, I don't care what you say, okay? I do not. You're mine now. Period. But with that brings me to the end of this book recommendations video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this little book recommendations video. If you guys have any more recommendations, I'm thinking about doing like certain scenes for recommendations, like maybe like jealousy scenes, or like, I don't know, like heroine and danger scenes, recommendation books. I have a whole bunch of ideas and I will upload them, okay? Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video, and if you want more recommendation videos, I am 100% going to do more because I love it and it's just so fun. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.